Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug Show. My name's Doug Cunnington, and in this episode, we're going to revisit the technical SEO audit that Olga from Seosly did on Niche Site Project for me back around, I think it was April or so. She gave me a lot of work to do, many assignments to fix up things from a technical SEO standpoint, and we're going to revisit that. And I can tell you right now, one of the reasons I wanted to have Olga back on, other aside from just, getting an update and hearing what's going on with her, I basically didn't see as good of results as what I would have hoped. And unfortunately, part of this comes back on me and the work that I've done. But we're going to dig into it and figure out what the next steps are for Niche Site Project as far as, improving the SEO and improving the organic traffic in general. So I'm going to bring Olga back on. How are you today, Olga?
Hi, Doug. I'm very happy to be here again. So I'm great, all great. How are you?
Well, we were just talking before the recording. I'm a little under the weather, but I've taken a lot of medicine and I have a cough drop, so I should be in good shape to chat with you today. And I'll just mute the microphone if I have to cough really hard. But otherwise, I'm doing fantastic.
That's
So,
great.
for people that missed the first episode, they should go back and check it out to get sort of the full context of what we're going to talk about today. But can you introduce yourself so people know who you are and sort of your background and where they can learn a little bit more about you?
Sure. So my name is Olga, Olga Zarzeczna. No one knows how to spell my surname, so you can just call me Olga. So I am a technical SEO specialist and SEO consultant. I run my own SEO consultancy called SEO or Seosly. There are two pronunciations possible for my site. So I mostly do technical SEO audits, a very large ones for large websites. I also cooperate with SEO agencies, and I am kind of responsible for their SEO auditing process. So this is kind of my main area of focus within SEO. And other than that, I can say I'm addicted to learning more things about SEO and listening SEO podcasts. And I must admit that one of my favorites is the one that is the one from Doug, the
Oh,
Doug
thank you.
Show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And one thing to sort of set the context for folks is I told you, Olga, that I kind of wanted you to coach me on this because from from my standpoint, a lot of times I do coach people and I'll ask, questions like, hey, what'd you work on? What did you do? And I kind of, a lot of ways put it back on them. It's their responsibility to do the work. And, things are not magically going to happen. So with that in mind, I'll just turn it over to you as my coach from the SEO standpoint here, and you can sort of dig in and then give me your observations based on what I was supposed to do and then what I actually did and the results that we've seen. So I guess maybe before we start, I can mention that I was looking at my analytics and some of the other metrics, and generally over the past, I would say, year or so, my site has been getting less traffic, fewer impressions overall from a search perspective, and just generally dwindling in terms of traffic. So if you want to add any more detail to that, feel free. And if not, you could just go directly into the coaching aspect here.
So maybe I will add something here. So I analyze your site in Google Search Console, Google Analytics, and some of the SEO tools such as SEMrush and Ahrefs. And yeah, that's true that your organic traffic has been slightly falling down, starting around January 2021. So I think it is more or less a year, and I can see even a bigger decline starting around June 2021. where those core Google core updates started around that time. So I would say that Google is kind of shifting the relevancy here a little bit and kind of trying to figure out how your site is doing and whether maybe it's kind of losing its SEO power, which we'll just dig deeper into in just a second.
Nice. Yep. That lines up exactly, and it was fairly abrupt in that June July timeframe of 2021, where especially on the search impressions over on the Search Console, it definitely dropped off a cliff and went down quite a bit. The clicks and the traffic didn't drop as dramatically, but the number of impressions dropped quite a lot.
But what I also noticed, the number of impressions, yes, it dropped down, but the click through rate kind of increased at the same time. So we may think that maybe the keywords that were kind of for which your site started to be visible, maybe they weren't so relevant. So maybe this is kind of this shifting relevance. So Google stopped showing your site for people who aren't really interested in what you are offering. So maybe this is a little bit of that, at least a little bit of that.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so my question, can I ask a question now? My question is, what have you done with your site over those? What have you been doing over those 4 months, more or less, 4 or 5 months?
So, one of the main things that we worked on was, and I think it was from the Hrefs audit portion and some of the more detailed audit that you did, was around what I guess it's Rank Math, the SEO plugin, could do. So I installed Rank Math, got it all set up. Before that, I wasn't using any SEO plugin. So that fixed up several things in the sitemap and some of the indexing issues that we observed. So most of those things were fixed with Rank Math. So again, from sort of the technical SEO standpoint, a lot of those issues just went away with the configuration of that tool, which really only took like maybe 45 minutes. And I took most of the default settings. So that was a big aspect. Another area was some of the core web vitals and the site load time and all that kind of stuff. And I switched from using, I think it was WP fastest cache, over to light speed caching, which
Mm-hmm.
is the specific caching tool that my hosting company recommends because it's on a light speed server. So that also fixed several of the issues associated with Core Web Vitals and some of the caching issues that I was having. So those are probably the main things. A handful of others were a lot of like redirects and multi-layer redirects where I've deleted content and then pointed towards more relevant things. So that helped a lot as far as like getting rid of those redirect chains. I don't remember how many there were, but there were quite a few that were, it was just kind of messy.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens over time with a site that you're trying to prune and you're trying to replace content and you realize that, well, that's not relevant anymore to anyone. It's
Yeah.
just an old blog post. Those are probably the main things that I worked on overall. And I'll actually be lazy and ask you, can you remember, is there anything else that we looked at any point in time where you know that I actually did that work? It's been a while. I can't remember.
So from what I remember, I crawled your site today and I checked what's happening in Google Search Console, and actually I can see that the majority of technical issues have been fixed. There are still a few of them. I will talk about them later. So I would say that what I was showing you last time we were talking, it was kind of my SEO audit process, in which I try to find everything that's wrong with the site. And we found a bunch of those technical errors, and you fixed them. That's great. But in your case, the technical errors weren't that critical. I would say that they, for instance, hindered your site from ranking or from being indexed at all. And that's why I think the results we have from those small fixes aren't what we expected, what we wished for, because your site is not a very huge site, and some of the and the impact of those fixes weren't wasn't so dramatic, because, for instance, crawl budget in your site, in your case, is not a thing at all in the case of your site, for example. So that's my take on SEO, technical SEO errors, I think. Regarding Core Web Vitals, uh, in Google Search Console, I think still some of those, it shows that you have this LCP, which is a little bit too high, but overall, I think in CRUX, Chrome User Experience Data, your site passes Core Web Vitals. So in that respect, it's okay.
Okay.
And yeah.
And I think, well, going back to the crawl budget, what size of a site would you start having to worry about your crawl budget? Is there some number of URLs or something like that where maybe you're in a threshold where it's like, oh, wow, you really need to be careful with that?
So I would say hundreds of thousands, something around that size, and up, definitely millions of URLs. So then it may become a problem, especially if you have a lot of automatically generated pages. Some, yeah, then some search results pages that are getting indexed, which they shouldn't. So then this is something to worry about. And for instance, if the site is so big that the crawl budget isn't enough, and for instance new content isn't being crawled and indexed, then if you clean this up, then you can see a huge effect on your organic rankings.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, let's keep pushing on here.
Okay, so maybe I will share a few of my observations, general observations, and then a few more specific ones. So I would say that so coming back to your overall traffic, so I analyzed specific pages of your site, and basically all of them lost some traffic except for the homepage. And I think still the strongest keywords that you have are your branded keywords, such as Doug Cunnington, which is like 13 keyword difficulty, I think, in Ahrefs. So Doug Cunnington, niche site project, keyword golden ratio, these are still your top keywords or top branded keywords that drive the most traffic for you, which is great. You have a really strong brand, and that's why I think these other pieces of content may need some improvements, some further optimizations. And coming back to removing content, so you removed a lot of web pages from your site. And can you tell me more or less how many you removed? And your purpose was to kind of, you thought that by removing them, you will kind of restore some of the rankings, or maybe boost the rankings of other pages.
Right.
Is that correct?
I removed about 50 to maybe 60% of the like URLs, something like that. And I redirected. I followed the sort of guidelines for removing content. So I redirected when possible. I used 410 redirects occasionally, which tells Google like, hey, this is not relevant anymore. There's no replacement. It's just old content. It's gone away. And I was referencing case studies where people did a big content audit and they essentially deleted a lot, they redirected a lot, and just generally cleaned up their content. Usually that means that they went back and improved and updated content as well. That is a huge step that I did not do. So I basically just deleted things in hopes that the I guess Google would realize the topics that I was covering, and I sort of tightened things up. So if things weren't relevant anymore, I got rid of it. If it wasn't something that should be part of the site, I got rid of it. So the thought was, yeah, maybe if I just tighten things up, the rankings would improve. So that generally just did not happen. It seemed like,
Hmm.
I mean, traffic didn't drop because I deleted content that wasn't getting traffic. So that was no big deal. But unfortunately, like we mentioned in June, July timeframe, the traffic sort of dropped off at that point with that update, that algorithm update around that time.
Okay, but have you been merging some old articles that you wanted to remove with the existing ones, or you just removed?
I generally, you know what? I can't remember. I think there were very few items or very few pages that made sense to merge. Generally, it was deleting things. I
Hmm.
do have a list of, it's probably like 20 different posts that probably need to be updated, at least something like that, 20 or so. But I never went back and actually updated them.
I see. I see. Okay. So let's now talk a little bit more about speed. I have it on my list here to talk about. So I noticed that you focused on speed, and you did it in such a way that you basically made your site a little bit naked. You removed everything that may cause any overload or may slow down the site. And you actually, from what I see, you have like 99 or 100% in Google Page Speed Insights. You are now passing Core Web Vitals. And we can say that the moment when Google page experience update started rolling out, which was in mid June, your site kind of started to. So in the case of your site, that wasn't the case. And another thing is that your site wasn't doing very poorly before. From what I remember, it was kind of fast,
Right.
right?
Yep.
But one thing I noticed is that in Google crawl stat reports in GSC, your average server response time is kind of going up and down, and it isn't that fast. It is sometimes on some days it was even 800 milliseconds. So this is something I think you may kind of maybe take a deeper look at your server, because with such a naked site, I think it should be like 50 milliseconds maybe or even
Mhm.
less.
Okay.
Is-
Interesting. I haven't looked back, and I didn't notice that. Generally, the server response time seemed pretty good, but I could definitely check that with my hosting company and see what's up. And from the perspective, like you're saying, generally I made the site naked. There's very few plugins running, and
Yeah.
there's not that much of a load on the server. So it shouldn't, and it's not a 100% dedicated server or anything like that.
Hmm.
It's semi-dedicated, so it's not
Hmm.
the cheapest hosting, but it shouldn't, like you said, it shouldn't be that long. And yeah, I totally didn't notice that on the Search Console.
But your site kind of is still passing Core Web Vitals, so it isn't like a critical issue, but something maybe to take into account. But the reason why you made your site so naked was only because of the speed, or you just wanted to yours you like minimalism, or
Yeah, it's a combo of the two. I think I do like a minimal sort of site. However, once I went down the rabbit hole to try to speed up the site,
Mhm.
it was like sort of a very strange feedback loop where I would like remove more and it got faster. And so now you end up with, there's just the content there and some
Yeah.
images and there's not much else going on. The other part is some of the plugins and like email capture mechanisms that I was using.
Hmm.
It was, it's a paid tool like Opt-in Monster, which is like
Hmm.
whatever, $500 a year. So if I remove that and use like an easier solution instead, which was basically just creating my own landing pages instead of using a pop up, it was cheaper too. So it was faster and
Mm-hmm.
cheaper and this simpler solution. So there's no conflicts with other plugins or anything like that. So it just made things a little bit easier. And I'm generally happy with it. My opt in conversion rate didn't change at all, which is shocking
Mm-hmm.
because generally you would expect that
Yeah,
to make a big difference.
that's interesting. Okay. Okay, so the biggest kind of my recommendation will be about content, but before I jump to that, I would kind of want to draw your attention to a few small still issues that I found. So one thing that kind of bugs me is the navigation menu, which, for instance, on the homepage there is no navigation menu. On some pages it is, but it doesn't look like navigation menu. I checked in the code; it is indeed a navigation menu. But for instance, I opened your site on my mobile phone, and when I was scrolling down, there was no kind of sticky header, so it was kind of difficult for me to kind of get back to the top and maybe to choose something different to go to a different page. I was only able to use internal links within the post. So is it something that you think you may want to kind of change, work on this
That's
navigate?
interesting. Yeah. So I use a WordPress theme called Thesis, and it's actually the Focus WordPress theme. And the creator has published content suggesting that, like, sort of removing the options, removing like the navigation and other things will encourage people to like sort of stay on the site. And I try to use breadcrumbs where there's no navigation. So that's sort of the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Use breadcrumbs so people
Oh,
could go back and like at least hit that same category and see the other post associated with that category.
mm-hmm.
Now that said, I don't know if I've implemented it properly. So when he first released some of these pieces of functionality for removing some of the navigation, and really it's sort of it's the opposite of having like a huge navigation. So instead of having like, 10 things in your menu and then five things in each sub menu and kind of an unusable navigation, I've gone way too far on the other side where there's not even a navigation. Like you can't get anywhere. It looks like a
Yeah,
landing page. So,
exactly.
so you're right, Olga. Maybe that's something I can look at and like at least have the simple navigation where there's, four options. That's not overwhelming. People can see that even on a mobile, and it's not going to be a situation of decision fatigue because that's sort of the idea. Like if you have too many
Yeah.
options, then maybe you don't make any choice. You're just like, I don't even know what to do, and you close the page. But I understand what you're saying, and I think, at least having the breadcrumbs or the navigation in a clear way is probably a better route. And I know there are some pages, like you said, where it's really just a landing page and there's nothing, you can't get anywhere. You
Yeah.
can't get anywhere after that.
So I would kind of be consistent with that. I would add navigation to all of the pages, and both on mobile and on desktop. And I think this is going to be a good sign, something friendly both for users and for search engine robots, because navigation, after all, kind of implies to search engines what pages are the most important for the site. So you may link the blog or other kind of informational content, the best content on your site from there.
Okay.
Okay, so navigation. Another thing is your blog page. So it is basically a block of links. There is no text kind of telling the user that this is the blog page of Doug. Here you will find this and that. These are the categories of topics that we cover here. I don't see any dates of those visible dates. Visible, for instance, visible dates, maybe some featured images. These things I think make the blog a little bit more friendly and kind of and if there is at least some description of the blog, I think then Google may treat it a little bit differently. But
Okay.
now you have only links, just links. So I would enrich
Okay.
the blog page a little bit.
Got it. And that makes sense. Again, a lot of this is from Chris Pearson, the DIY themes thesis guy, and when when you hear him explain it, people can usually figure out what's going on. If they just see the title, that should be good enough. But if you if you think about where someone might get to your site from, it is not always with context. So they might land on the
Hmm.
page and they're thinking, oh, I want to check it out. And they may see, I'm just thinking of some recent case study updates from Christy, who's a student of mine. And basically, there's no context around it. So it's just like the name of the update and the month, and there's no other
Yeah.
detail around it. So that makes sense.
Okay, so another kind of technical thing is when I was crawling your site, I noticed that you still have a lot of links pointing to HTTP URLs of either external, usually external sites, but I think your internal, maybe internal URLs as well. Of course, these are redirected, 301 redirected to HTTPS versions, but I would kind of clean this up. You can
Okay.
usually do it with just one click. You just make a change in the database, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah,
And
okay.
quick note on that. I am pretty sure I cleaned that up before, but there's a particular plugin which I won't name specifically because I'm about to say it's doing a bad job. I think there's a particular plugin that like ends up linking to the HTTP version and not the secure version.
Mhm.
And I've seen this across on another couple of sites. So I may stop using that plugin because there's all these like
That's interesting.
little things. I'll tell you what it is afterwards. But I've
Okay.
seen this. Like I said, I fixed that before in the database, just
Okay.
like you mentioned, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
all
Oh,
right,
it keeps coming back.
yep, it keeps coming back, and it's just a couple here and
Okay.
there, and I'm a little confused on why
Uh-huh.
why that is. So, okay,
That's
that's
it.
an easy fix.
Okay. And another thing regarding redirections, I noticed that you have a bunch of internal links pointing to redirected URLs. So maybe updating these would be a good idea as well to kind of, so that Google does not have to go through those redirects. I noticed in Google Search Console crawl stats that Googlebot is going through those redirections a little bit. So maybe if we remove them, it will focus on your actual content more.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Another thing, this is a technical issue, but this is like a small issue that will not break your site. But you still have this not found URL. Your 404 page still returns a status code 200 and is indexable. So this is kind of a good technical SEO practice that I would like to get
Okay,
implemented. Another thing, still technical, I noticed in many cases you don't have alt text in your articles in your guides. So maybe I think Rank Math has this option of automatically adding alt text and title to all images. I'm
okay,
pretty sure. So this should be an easy fix. I noticed that you are not getting a lot of traffic from Google image, but maybe I don't think this type of content gets. But maybe if you implement some of those things, maybe it will change. Another thing I have here, I noticed you are not adding no follow tag to affiliate links. You are probably implementing affiliate links with some plugin. Am I correct? That is, I noticed 307 redirecting the URL, your own internal URL to the actual affiliate site, right?
most of the time, but not always. I'm using pretty links. Yep.
Okay. So maybe I would consider adding no follow to those links. I,
Okay.
I still don't think this. Google is pretty now good at you have affiliate disclaimers, so I think this should be fine. But I would still no follow those links. Okay, so I think that's all regarding technical SEO. And now I would like to talk more about the content and what I think we can do here.
And before we go on to the content, looking at the list of the technical SEO items, I feel like none of them are really super significant. So if I fixed it, if I fixed all of the, roughly 10 things, it probably wouldn't make a huge difference, right? They're all sort of minor issues.
So I would say maybe there's internal linking, meaning navigation menu. I would say this may be a little bit more important one, but others are kind of good practices. Again, good
Okay.
SEO, best technical SEO practices.
And why is the navigation and the internal linking, why do you weigh that higher than the others?
So I think that internal links are totally within our power, contrary to external links, and it is Google takes into account how we internally link to other pages on our site. There is page rank flowing through our pages, so that's why I think we should kind of plan it and make sure that our top pages, the pages that we care about the most or the ones that we want to kind of improve in Google, are properly linked from other similar pages, and the ones that we care the most should be linked from the top navigation menu, I think.
Okay, cool.
Okay, and one quick tip I think that I can share here is that what I sometimes suggest my clients is I look, for instance, I check the site in Ahrefs. This is what I did with your site as well, and then I filter the sites by the web pages by the most popular by links, and if some web pages have very strong external links, then you may, for instance, think about adding internal links to the important pages on your site on those pages that have those nice links. So this is kind of something that you have within your control.
Right. Great.
Okay, so now moving on to content. So I think the best thing that you can do here now is work on content on your site, and I think that should be updating the existing content and creating new content. So, for example, let me check. I noticed that your single most popular web page is the one that talks about Amazon affiliate examples, and I checked what keywords this web page ranks for. And for instance, you are on position 12 for instance, big affiliate websites and micro niche site examples. And I noticed that you are dividing the sites on this article into big and small. And maybe you may work on expanding that list, or maybe adding another section with just micro niche site examples because you have small. So maybe adding these. I also noticed, for instance, you have screenshots from Ahrefs there. Maybe you can update those screenshots as well. And
Got it.
so these are some of the ideas. And one thing regarding articles, I would maybe add author bios to them. What do you think about this? Because I know you, so if I see your name, I know that there is authority behind this. But maybe if someone else is reading this, maybe they would like to see some author bio. So
Sure. And you're saying just like the author bio box, like at the bottom of the
yeah,
article? Sure.
yeah, saying that you are who you are, what you do, what are
Gotcha.
your credentials.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. That makes sense to me.
So this will be kind of an EAT, let's say, optimization here a little bit.
Got it.
Uh, you may, for instance, also speaking about EAT, use a schema same as, and maybe to links to some of your other profiles, your publications. You probably have a lot of them on other sites. This may
Okay.
kind of help Google connect the dots. Um, Another thing, I really love checking the keywords for which the site ranks, and I also found a bunch of keywords which I think, for instance, if maybe ideas for new topics on your site. For instance, I found that your site is already ranking for keyword top Amazon affiliate products. Maybe you may create something listing those products or listing some tips about that. This is usually if the site is already has some rankings, has some visibility, then usually the best way to kind of generate new topics is to simply see what the site is already ranking for and what the site is not talking about, and then create content about that. And the chances are that the site will rank for that highly, relatively quickly, without the need to wait like 8, 6 months or sometimes even longer. For instance, one more topic. I think you are on position 25, and this was relatively nice keyword because I was checking them in Ahrefs as well. For instance, best Amazon affiliate WordPress theme. For instance, this is a very affiliate keyword. I noticed you have an article about the best affiliate WordPress theme, but maybe there is some theme that would be specifically good for Amazon affiliates, for example. So
Perfect.
this is an idea.
Okay. And yeah, I was going to say, I think I had some topic very close to that, but I could probably change the title and update it because it's probably
Yeah,
five
in
years
many
old.
cases, yeah. Yeah, so in many cases you may simply add a bunch of improve the titles. I didn't check how your titles change in Ahrefs. There's this new feature, but I haven't checked that. I'm curious. I will check that later. How your titles were changed by Google.
Okay. One question. So we have here the page that I get a lot of visits, which is the Amazon affiliate examples. And then one of the new content ideas that you noted was niche site examples. So in that case, those are very similar topics. And when you think about the user intent behind it, it's very close. So how would you reconcile that? Should I have content on both of those and maybe just orient the topic
To
towards
be
the keyword, or what do you think?
To be honest, I was thinking about that, and I wasn't really sure if we should split this or we shouldn't. But I think the best way to judge is to simply type those keywords into Google and see whether similar pages are appear. And if similar pages are appear, then we can be sure that there is some keyword intent overlap between them. If they don't, then maybe this can indeed be a new article on your site.
Okay, so that's a huge insight right there. So just to repeat it, and you could correct me if I've mistaken here, but basically you can Google similar terms, see what the results are, and if there's overlap between the results, then you have confirmation from Google that at least at the time that you're checking, that those have pretty close or at least a lot of overlap with the searcher intent. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes Ahrefs also shows you something called parent topic, and sometimes the parent topic is kind of something that overlaps. But this is not always true, but this is also an indication that you may want to target a bunch of keywords in just one web page.
Okay, got it. Perfect. All right.
Okay,
Anything else? Any
let
other
me
content ideas?
So, so from what I see, you are generally your site is it is there is this 90 rule for basically any site that it ranks for 20% of the content it has. And in the case of your site, I think I see that the content that is already doing well is content relating to affiliate sites, to Amazon affiliate, being an Amazon affiliate. So I think you should definitely go in that direction because Google kind of already recognizes that your site is an authority in that topic. So if you expand on that, I think you will have quicker effects probably than if you just started a totally different topic that you are not visible for at all.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And one other area that I want to ask you about is just the keyword area, right? So obviously there's a lot of content about keyword golden ratio and long tail keywords. Did you observe any topics that could be a good area to explore deeper, or should I just focus on the Amazon affiliate spot currently?
So to be honest, I think just one keyword that I noticed because I was also checking your branded keywords to find exactly that, to check what people are looking for together with your name. And one keyword that kind of drew my attention was the Cunnington course download.
Oh
So
yeah.
looks like people are interested in your courses. But to be honest, I think I would go with I would go with that affiliate direction.
Okay.
But maybe I can, if you wish, can I? I
No, we can check on it later. We
okay.
can check on it later. I think I have seen a couple like keyword zones that sorry, topic areas that are in the keyword zone that I probably could check out. But in a lot of cases, it's pretty competitive because keyword research tools are trying to get traffic on those keywords. So it's a little more competitive. Not that I couldn't, compete necessarily, but it would potentially take a lot more work. Or the other folks that want to rank well are affiliates for the keyword research tools. So they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
rank because it's a profitable keyword, which, I mean, when it comes down to it, that would be why I would try to, play in that area too. So, okay. Are we ready to sort of summarize here what's going on?
Maybe one more
Sure.
idea that just came to my mind. You create a lot of video content, so maybe you can embed some of this content on your specific guides, or maybe create some shorter, like 10-minute videos that kind of talk about what you talk in a specific article. This will for sure increase your engagement, time spent on the site, on the web page, and using those, for instance, the plugin, the speed plugin that I recommend, WP Rocket. And I think your plugin may have this functionality as well. Will make sure that the video isn't loaded until someone clicks on that, so it will not negatively impact your speed if you are concerned about that.
Right. Yep, that's a great idea. And I was thinking of this the whole time because I'm always thinking of, video ideas. But if I'm already thinking of the content or writing, updates for the Amazon affiliate example page, I can go ahead and shoot a video at the same time. I've already done the legwork and basically written a script, so it's very easy to just publish a video, and then I can in, not internally link, but link from the YouTube video, and then embed the video over to the web page. So there's a lot of, I guess, relevancy that goes along with it. I don't know if it'll necessarily help it rank better, but it surely wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, definitely. And what one more question I have for you? How much content do you think you will be able to create?
Oh wow, you're
How much
tough.
content,
You're a tough coach.
how many articles per week, per month? So maybe
So
we can,
yeah, that is a
yeah.
great question. I didn't think you were going to ask that, and I hadn't thought far enough ahead. So I don't know. I would say probably at most it would be like one article per week at most, and I would probably need to hire a writer. And I'll back into this in a second from like a grander perspective. So realistically, so I made that, one per week. So realistically it would be one every 2 weeks.
Okay.
just knowing how I predict the amount of work that can be done. Usually I'm off by like, 50%. So
Me too. Exactly.
so that's the reality of it. Yeah, but that's a good coaching question. And then the second, yeah, I guess the second part is like when are you going to start and when are you going to have it
Yeah,
done by? So
exactly.
so I don't know. I'm sick, Olga. Come on. You're killing me here.
Okay. So I will check in when you are feeling okay.
Yeah. But that is a good question, and I think, yeah, probably one every 2 weeks, which would be huge because when I think back, and I think you even noted the last update for a particular post was like over a year ago, and realistically, I haven't written any new blog post in a very very long time. Like it could be 2 years, something like that. I mean, it's been a super long time. It's
Yeah, so
insane.
yeah, so I would say this is kind of natural that your site is kind of growing old and slowly declining.
Right. And I recently was chatting with a friend, Ron Stefanski, and he was talking about just like improving content on his site, even stuff that's only like a year old, where he's published, and then he'll keep going back like every quarter and like
Yeah.
just keep tweaking the content, adding a little bit more. And he says that it's been, providing wonderful results, even with generally updated content, like not even out of date. Updating and adding a little bit more seems to just keep everything fresh, and he's been seeing great results.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else?
I think I think that would be all. I'm very curious to see how the blog will grow once you start adding and Google kind of sees that something is happening again on the site.
Right. So the grander perspective, well, before I get into that, this has been super insightful, and I think people can go back and check out the previous episode and hear, what I was supposed to do, what I actually did, the results that we saw, and kind of understand how important certain things are and maybe were, right? Like the site speed, which I spent a lot of time on, probably didn't matter that much. The site was already loading pretty fast. That was probably wasted effort and diminishing returns, and it really didn't matter that much. And the most important thing, which I hope people were able to figure out here, is content, like adding more content, improving the content, and actually targeting some keywords and doing things intentionally. That's something I haven't really been doing. As I mentioned, I haven't published much content and written anything myself in quite a while. And part of that, here's the grander sort of theme, is I've been working a little bit less. So from a like life perspective, I've been way happier, and I haven't been working as much. I haven't been sitting here at the computer. I've been working on other types of content like podcast, for example, which is really fun. It's a lot more social than just me sitting and writing. The downside is I'm getting less traffic on the website and the rankings are going down, but I'm happier. So it's a a little bit of a trade off, and at some point I do have to think about this like a job and be professional, like write some fucking articles, or like hire someone to help out, like do a little bit of work, or it'll continue to decline. Now, Olga, do you have any prediction? Like if I start publishing, let's say I can publish like an article a week, and I do this for let's say I'll publish an article a week just for a year. Do you have any hunch on how long it might be before I start seeing some improvement? And I know I won't hold you to it, but I'm just curious if you've seen this with clients or otherwise.
Yes, I've seen it many times, and I think you should start to see some traction after, I think, 2 3 months, because your site is kind of already has some authority. So it isn't like you are in the sandbox or something like that. So I think after a few months you should start to see incremental improvements, and after a year, I think, yeah, you should be really, if you after a year you will have like 50, almost 50, around 50, let's say, depending on how many you actually publish. You have 50 new articles, and in your case, they will be well written, they will be SEO optimized, keyword optimized. So I assume you can expect your traffic to double, triple at
Okay.
least.
In that, is that double or triple from where it is right now or where it was?
Where it was, of
Okay.
course.
Okay, good. Very good. Well, any other thoughts before we wrap up?
So maybe one final thought is that we should think about technical SEO as a basis. If technical SEO is okay, there are no critical errors, then we can build upon that. And the thing that we should place on top of that is, of course, content, good content, optimized SEO optimized content, and both content cannot kind of be successful without technical SEO, without your site being crawlable, indexable, and visible to Google. And just having a super fast and great in terms of technical SEO website is not enough as well. So I would think about this. It's kind of a pyramid where you have, where is my hand, where you have content here and, and technical SEO on top, on the bottom.
And for the people on the podcast, she was gesturing with her hands a pyramid. Yeah, there you
Wow.
go. You got it. It's like a Christmas tree. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. We'll put links so people can find you, but yeah, where should people reach out to you if they want to connect with you further?
So I invite people to invite you to follow me on Twitter. I am also on LinkedIn, and follow my blog, SEO Sly or Seosly, and check my. I try to post new every week, a new article every week, but I sometimes do it every 2 weeks.
That's not too bad. That's a lot more than me. All
We'll see
right.
how long I am able to do it like this.
Very good. Well, thanks, Olga. It's always good to catch up.
Thank you. It was very nice being here again.